They asked, "Who gets the house?" So she gave it to her nurse instead. I was folding towels on a Tuesday morning when my daughter called. The lavender ones. The good ones from Pottery Barn that I bought when Mark was still alive. And we still had dinner parties, and people still came to our house because they wanted to be there, not because they were checking to see if I was dead yet. The phone rang and I saw her name on the screen. Jennifer, my firstborn, the one who came after 27 hours of labor and a C-section that left a scar I can still trace with my finger in the dark. I answered, because that is what mothers do. We answer, even when every cell in our body is screaming to let it go to voicemail. She said, "Mom, we need to talk about the house." I kept folding. The towel was warm from the dryer. I remember that, the heat through my fingers. I said, "What about the house, Jennifer?" She said, "We think it is time. We think you should consider moving somewhere smaller, somewhere easier, somewhere with less stairs." She was using her real estate voice, the one she uses with clients when she wants them to sell a home that has been in their family for 3 generations. That voice is soft and reasonable and completely empty of a soul. I said, "I am fine here." I said, "The stairs are fine." I said, "I am only 69 years old. I am not an invalid." She said, "Mom, please do not get defensive. We are just worried about you." We, being her and her brother David, and her husband Eric, and David's wife Michelle, the committee, the people who had been meeting without me for months, probably years, the people who had already decided what was going to happen to my life before I even knew there was a vote. The towel was folded. I reached for another one, a pale blue one. Mark always used the blue ones. He said the lavender made him feel like he was sleeping in a field of flowers, and he was a grown man, not a fairy tale character. I kept the lavender anyway, after he died. I kept everything. The house was mine. We bought it in 1987. I remember the interest rate was absurd, 13%. We signed the papers and drove home in his Ford Taurus, and he kept saying, "We are homeowners, we are actual homeowners," like he could not believe it. 2 kids in the back seat. Jennifer was 6, David was 4. They were fighting over a bag of McDonald's French fries. That was happiness. That was the whole entire world in a car that smelled like French fries and cigarette smoke, because Mark still smoked then, and I hated it, but I loved him, so I tolerated the ash and the smell and the way he would flick the butt out the window like the world was his ashtray. My daughter was still talking. She said, "We have looked at a few places. Independent living, very nice, very social. Bingo nights and book clubs, and they bring dinner to your door." I said, "I do not want bingo nights. I want my house." She said, "Mom, you are not being reasonable." And that was the moment. That tiny word, reasonable. That is what people say when they want you to agree to something that benefits them and hurts you, but they do not want to feel bad about it. So they call you unreasonable. They make your resistance the problem, not their greed, not their impatience, not the fact that they have already measured the house in their minds and divided the rooms like property in a divorce. I said, "Jennifer, I will think about it." She said, "Okay, good, because we have a meeting with a realtor on Thursday." I said, "What realtor?" She said, "Just someone we have been talking to." I said, "You have been talking to a realtor about my house?" She said, "Mom, we are just exploring options." I said, "Okay." I said, "Okay, I will call you tomorrow." Then I hung up. I hung up because I was about to cry, and I did not want her to hear it. Crying is fuel for people like my daughter. She sees tears and she feels justified. Tears mean you are emotional, and emotional people cannot make good decisions, and therefore she should make the decisions for you. I finished the laundry. I put the towels away. I walked through the house, room by room. The living room, with the fireplace where Mark proposed to me in 1979. He was so nervous he dropped the ring. It rolled under the couch. We had to move the whole couch to find it. He was on his knees laughing and crying at the same time. That is the man I married. Not the one who left. Not the one who broke me later. That man was still in there somewhere, underneath the drinking and the silence and the way he started looking through me instead of at me. But the house remembered him. The house remembered all of us. The kitchen, where Jennifer learned to bake cookies and burned 3 batches before she got one right. She was 8 years old, covered in flour, crying over burnt sugar, and I held her and said the best things take practice. She is 47 now. She has not made cookies in 20 years. She does not have time. She is too busy managing other people's lives and calling it love. The dining room, where David announced he was dropping out of college to join a band. Mark almost flipped the table. I sat there with my hands in my lap and watched my son become a stranger in front of me. He is 52 now. The band never made it. He sells insurance. He married Michelle, who has never liked me, and I have never known why. Maybe because I am a reminder that he had a mother before her. Maybe because I caught her going through my jewelry box one Christmas. She said she was looking for a safety pin. I said the safety pins are in the bathroom drawer. She closed the jewelry box and did not look at me for the rest of the night. The stairs, the ones they are so worried about. I climbed them that Tuesday morning just to prove I could. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 stairs to the second floor. I have climbed them every day for 37 years. I will climb them tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, until I cannot anymore. And that decision will be mine, not theirs. The master bedroom. Mark's side of the closet is still full of his clothes. I cannot move them. I have tried. I have stood there with garbage bags and good intentions, and every time I reach for his flannel shirt, I remember the way he looked the last morning he woke up in this house. He was pale. He was tired. He said, "I think I need to see the doctor." That was a Tuesday, too. He died on Friday. Cancer in his liver. Cancer in his lungs. Cancer everywhere. Like a fire that had been burning for years, while he told me he was fine, while he drank his whiskey and laughed about how tough he was. Tough men die first. They die because they do not say help. They do not say, "I am scared." They just swallow the pain and call it strength. The guest room. The one Jennifer has already claimed for her own. I know this because she mentioned it last Thanksgiving. She said, "This room has the best light." She said, "If you ever decide to downsize, I would love to have this furniture." She was standing in the doorway with a glass of wine, and she was not talking to me. She was talking to her husband, Eric. They were already planning, already measuring, already deciding which walls to paint and which carpets to replace, and where to put their children when they came to visit. Their children. My grandchildren.
The ones who used to call me every Sunday. The ones who stopped calling when they got iPhones and social media, and lives that did not have room for a grandmother who still sends birthday cards with $20 inside. I did not sleep that night. I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and listened to the house settle. The creaks and groans that used to annoy me now sounded like a heartbeat. The house was alive. The house was breathing, and they wanted to take it from me. The next morning, I did something I had not done in years. I opened the safe in the basement, the one behind the water heater. Mark installed it in 1992 after a burglary in the neighborhood. The combination was our anniversary, July 17th, 0717. The door swung open and I pulled out the deed, the original deed. Blue ink on yellowed paper, Mark's signature and mine. The name of the man who sold us the house, a man named Harold Finch, who wore bow ties and grew tomatoes in his backyard, and died in 2005. I held that deed in my hands, and I read every word. Then I read it again. Then I made a phone call to a lawyer, a woman named Patricia, who had helped me with Mark's will 10 years ago. She was retired, but her daughter had taken over the practice. A young woman named Sarah, with sharp eyes and a soft voice, and the kind of focus that made you feel like you were the only person in the world. I told Sarah everything. The phone call, the realtor, the committee.
Sarah listened. She did not interrupt. She did not say, "I told you so," or "You should have seen this coming," or "Why did you wait so long?" She just listened. Then she said something that stopped my heart. She said, "Has anyone asked you to sign anything recently?" I thought about it. I thought about the stack of papers Jennifer brought over last month, the ones she said were for the refinance, the ones she said would lower my monthly payment and free up cash for home repairs. I had signed them without reading them because it was Jennifer, and she was my daughter, and she had a finance degree. And she said, "Trust me, Mom, it is just paperwork." I signed 5 pages. I did not keep copies. She said the bank would mail them to me. The bank never mailed anything. I told Sarah about the papers. There was a pause, the kind of pause that lasts 1 second but feels like an hour. Sarah said, "I need you to come to my office today." She said, "Do not tell anyone, not Jennifer, not David, not your neighbors, not your friends, no one." She said, "Bring any documents you have. Bring your ID, bring your checkbook, and do not sign anything else until I have reviewed everything." My hands were shaking when I hung up. I drove to Sarah's office in silence. No radio, no music, just the sound of my own breathing and the occasional horn from someone who thought I was driving too slow. They were probably right.
I was driving like an old woman because suddenly I felt old. Not 69. Not a grandmother who still mows her own lawn and lifts her own groceries and volunteers at the church food bank twice a month. I felt ancient. I felt like a child who had just realized the people she trusted most in the world had been lying to her for years. Sarah's office was in a building that used to be a bank. Granite floors, high ceilings, the kind of place that makes you feel small, but in a good way, like your problems are temporary, but the building will stand forever. She sat me down in a leather chair and handed me a bottle of water, and then she told me the truth. She said there is no refinance. There never was. The papers I signed were a quitclaim deed, a document that transferred ownership of my house from my name to a trust controlled by Jennifer and David. I did not understand at first. I thought a quitclaim deed was something you used when you got married or divorced, or when someone died. Sarah explained it slowly. She said the house is no longer mine. Legally, it belongs to the trust, and the trustees are my children. They can sell the house without my permission. They can evict me. They can do whatever they want because I signed my rights away. I said I did not know what I was signing. I said Jennifer told me it was a refinance. I said I trusted her. Sarah looked at me with eyes that had seen this before. She said, "I know." She said this happens more than you would believe. She said families do this to each other every day. She said the law can help, but it will be expensive, and it will be ugly, and it will destroy whatever is left of your relationship with your children. I started to cry. Not the quiet tears I cried on the phone with Jennifer, the ugly kind. The kind where your whole face crumples and you cannot breathe, and you make sounds you did not know a human could make. Sarah handed me a box of tissues. She did not say it will be okay, because she knew it would not be okay. Nothing would ever be okay again. I drove home in a fog. The streets looked the same, but everything was different. The light was wrong. The colors were wrong. The world had tilted, and I was sliding off. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the car for a long time. The house looked the same. The white siding, the black shutters, the oak tree Mark planted when Jennifer started kindergarten. That tree was huge now. It had roots that went deep into the earth, deeper than any trust, deeper than any betrayal. I wished I had roots like that. I wished I could anchor myself to something that could not be stolen. I did not call Jennifer. I did not call David. I did not know what to say. What do you say to children who have taken your home? Do you scream? Do you plead? Do you ask why? I had spent 47 years being their mother. I had changed Jennifer's diapers and held her hair back when she was sick and stayed up all night when she had a fever of 104.
I had paid for David's guitar lessons and his first car and his wedding to a woman who looked through my jewelry box. I had loved them with a love that had no conditions, no limits, no end. And they had repaid me with a pen and a stack of paper and a lie about a refinance. That night, I did something else I had not done in years. I poured myself a glass of whiskey. Mark's whiskey, the bottle he left behind. Johnny Walker Black. He always said, if you are going to drink, do not drink cheap. I sat in his chair, the leather recliner in the corner of the living room, the one he sat in every night for 20 years, the one that still has a dent in the shape of his body. I drank the whiskey and I thought about my marriage, about all the things I ignored, all the signs I dismissed, all the nights he came home late with lipstick on his collar, and a story about a client who hugged him too long. I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself he would never do that to me. He was Mark. He was the father of my children. He was my husband. And then one day, I found the texts on his phone, the phone he left on the kitchen counter while he took a shower, the phone that buzzed with a message from a woman named Carol, who called him baby, and said she could not wait to see him tomorrow. That was 2012. I was 56 years old. I had been married for 33 years. I confronted him that night. He did not deny it. He did not apologize.
He just looked at me with tired eyes and said, "I thought you knew." Like it was a business arrangement. Like I was supposed to understand that men have needs and women have duties, and somewhere along the way the lines got blurred. I stayed. I stayed because I was afraid. Afraid of being alone, afraid of what people would say, afraid of dividing the house and the furniture and the memories into his and hers. I stayed, and I hated myself for staying. I stayed, and he kept seeing Carol, and probably other women too. He stayed out later and later. He drank more and more. And then he died. And I thought, finally, I am free. Finally, I can mourn the marriage I wanted, not the one I had. But death does not free you. It just locks everything in place. You carry the weight forever. The whiskey made me sleepy. I stumbled to bed and dreamed of Harold Finch, the man in the bow tie. He was standing in his tomato garden, handing me a key. He said, "This is your house now. Take care of it." I woke up with the taste of whiskey and regret in my mouth. The sun was coming through the curtains. Another day, another morning in a house that was not mine anymore. I called Sarah the next morning. I told her I wanted to fight. I told her I did not care about the cost or the ugliness or the relationship with my children. They had already destroyed that relationship when they handed me a pen and a lie. She said, "Okay." She said, "I will file a lawsuit to invalidate the quitclaim deed on the grounds of fraud and undue influence." She said it will take months. She said you will have to testify. She said you will have to sit in a room with your children and a judge and tell the world what they did to you. She said, "Are you ready for that?" I said yes. I was not ready. No one is ready for that. But I said yes because saying yes was the first real decision I had made in years. Not for them, not for Mark, not for the ghost of my marriage. For me. The next few weeks were a blur of phone calls and emails and documents and meetings. Sarah worked fast. She filed the lawsuit and served Jennifer and David with papers. They were shocked. I know this because David called me screaming. He said, "How could you do this to us?" He said, "We were trying to help you." He said, "Mom, what is wrong with you?" I listened to his voice and I heard his father in it. The same entitlement, the same ability to twist everything so he was the victim. I said, "David, I am not going to argue with you." He said, "Then there is nothing to talk about." He hung up. That was the last time I heard his voice for a long time. Jennifer did not call. She sent emails. Long emails full of legal jargon and accusations and threats. She said I was suffering from dementia. She said I was being manipulated by Sarah. She said I was a danger to myself and she was going to seek guardianship. She actually used the word guardianship, like I was a child. Like I was a dog. She wanted to control my money and my body and my life because the quitclaim deed was not enough. She wanted everything. I stopped sleeping, I stopped eating, I lost 15 pounds in a month. My neighbor Carol, not the Carol from Mark's phone, a different Carol, a widow who lived across the street. She started bringing me casseroles and soup and those little cups of pudding that old people eat in commercials. She did not ask questions. She just sat with me sometimes. We watched the news, we watched the birds in my backyard, we watched the oak tree lose its leaves and grow new ones and lose them again. Time passed. The lawsuit moved forward. Sarah deposed Jennifer first. I was not there, but Sarah told me everything. Jennifer sat in a conference room with a court reporter and a video camera and a lawyer she had hired, a man named Bradley who wore suits that cost more than my first car. Bradley tried to argue that I had signed the quitclaim deed willingly and knowingly. He said I was of sound mind. He said I had consulted with an attorney before signing. The attorney was a lie. There was no attorney. There was just Jennifer and a stack of paper and a mother who trusted her daughter. Sarah played her best card. She had obtained Jennifer's text messages with David, months of conversations about the house, about how much it was worth, about how much they would get after taxes, about what to do with me once the house was sold. David wanted to put me in a nursing home, a cheap one. Jennifer wanted me to rent a small apartment near her so I could babysit her kids for free while she and Eric went on vacations. I read those texts in Sarah's office. I read every word. My son wanted to lock me away in a place with fluorescent lights and bed sores and the smell of bleach and urine. My daughter wanted to use me as a free nanny until I was too old to be useful, and then probably the nursing home anyway. I did not cry this time. I was empty. The tears had dried up. There was nothing left inside me but a cold, hard anger. The kind of anger that keeps you alive when everything else wants you dead. The case never went to trial. Jennifer and David settled. Their lawyer knew they would lose. The quitclaim deed was obtained by fraud. There was no way around it. Sarah negotiated a deal. The house would be transferred back to my name. My children would pay my legal fees, and they'd have no contact with me unless I initiated it. That last part was my idea. I did not want to see them. I did not want to hear their voices or see their faces, or pretend that anything could ever be repaired. Some things cannot be repaired. Some cracks are too deep. Some betrayals cut to the bone, and the bone does not heal the way skin does. It leaves a scar that aches every time the weather changes. I got my house back. The deed is in a safe deposit box now. Not a safe behind the water heater. The safe is empty.
I moved everything to a bank downtown, a bank with security cameras and guards and a vault door that weighs 2 tons. I am not taking any more chances. But here is the thing no one tells you about winning. It does not feel like winning. It feels like surviving a car accident. You are alive, but your body is broken, and you will never be the same. I walk through my house, and I see the ghosts of my children everywhere. Jennifer's handprints in the sidewalk out front. She was 5 years old when she made those. David's height marks on the doorframe of the laundry room. He grew 6 inches between 8th grade and freshman year. I cannot erase them. I do not want to erase them, but they hurt to look at. They hurt like a photograph of someone who died before you said goodbye. I am 72 now. 3 years have passed since the lawsuit. I still live in the house. I still climb the stairs. I still sleep in the master bedroom with Mark's clothes in the closet, and his whiskey in the cabinet, and his ghost in every corner. The loneliness is the hardest part. The phone does not ring. No one comes for Thanksgiving. No one comes for Christmas. I put up a tree last year, a small one. It looked sad, and I took it down after 2 days. The grandchildren do not call. They are teenagers now. They have their own lives. They have been told that Grandma is crazy, that Grandma sued their parents, that Grandma is the villain in this story. I accept that. I have to accept it, because fighting it would be another war, and I am too tired for more wars. I hired a woman named Rosa to help me around the house. She is a nurse, a real nurse. Not the kind who works in a hospital, but the kind who comes to your home and makes sure you take your pills and eat your meals and do not fall in the shower. She is 52 years old. She has 3 children and 6 grandchildren, and a laugh that fills the whole kitchen. She calls me Mama, not in a fake way, in a real way. She lost her own mother to cancer 10 years ago, and I think she needed someone to take care of just as much as I needed someone to take care of her. Rosa knows the story. I told her everything one night when we were sitting on the porch watching the fireflies. She did not judge me. She did not tell me to forgive them. She just said families are complicated. She said love should not hurt like that. She said you deserve better. She said those words and I believed her because she had no reason to lie. She does not want my house. She does not want my money. She wants to be paid for her work and she wants to go home to her own family at the end of the day. That is the difference between a stranger and your own blood. Sometimes the stranger has more integrity than the child you raised. Jennifer tried to contact me last month. She sent a letter, not an email, a real letter with a stamp and everything. She wrote that she was sorry, that she had been under a lot of pressure, that David had pushed her into the quitclaim deed, that she missed me and the children missed me, and could we please have coffee somewhere neutral? I read the letter 3 times. I looked for the lie. I found it on page 2. She said she never wanted the house. She said the whole thing was David's idea. But I had seen the texts. I had read her words with my own eyes. She wanted the house. She wanted the guest room with the good light. She wanted to rent me out like an appliance until I broke. The letter was not an apology. It was a strategy. A new strategy, because the old one failed. I did not respond. I put the letter in a drawer with the deed and the will and the death certificate, and all the other papers that prove my life existed. Maybe one day I will burn them. Maybe one day I will read them again and feel something other than this hollow weight in my chest. But not today. Today I am going to make coffee and fold laundry and watch the birds and wait for Rosa to arrive. She's binning soup. She makes a chicken soup that tastes like love, the kind of love that does not come with conditions or fine print or a deadline. People ask me if I regret it, the lawsuit, the estrangement, the loneliness. They ask if I would do it differently, if I would go back and just give them the house, just move into the small apartment, just let them win. And I tell them the truth. I tell them I would do it again. I would burn every bridge. I would lose every relationship. I would sit in this empty house with nothing but ghosts and silence and the sound of my own heartbeat. Because the house is not just a house. It is the only thing I have left that is truly mine. It is the oak tree Mark planted. It is the handprints in the sidewalk. It is the door frame with the height marks. It is the kitchen where Jennifer burned cookies, and the dining room where David became a stranger, and the bedroom where my husband died with his secret still inside him. It is my life, not theirs, not anyone else's, mine. I am 72 years old. I do not know how many years I have left, 5, 10, maybe 15 if I am lucky, and my heart holds out, and the cancer that killed Mark does not find me too. But however many years there are, I will spend them here, in this house, on this street, under this oak tree. And when I die, I am leaving everything to Rosa, the house, the money, the furniture, the safe deposit box, the whole thing. Not because she asked, not because she expects it, but because she showed up. She cooked soup. She held my hand. She called me Mama when my own children called me a burden. I told Jennifer this in a letter of my own. I wrote it on real paper with a real pen. I said the house goes to Rosa. I said you will get nothing. I said this is not revenge. This is justice. This is what happens when you treat your mother like a transaction and then act surprised when she treats you like a stranger. She called me after she got the letter. I did not answer.
She left a voicemail. She was crying. She said, "Mom, please." She said, "I am your daughter." She said, "You cannot do this to me." I listened to the voicemail 3 times. Then I deleted it. Then I went to the kitchen and poured myself a cup of coffee and watched the sunrise over the backyard. The grass needed mowing. The gutters needed cleaning. The oak tree needed pruning. Life goes on, even when your heart is broken, even when your children are strangers, even when the people you trusted most in the world tried to take everything and leave you with nothing. The sun came up like it always does, golden, pink, and orange, beautiful and indifferent. I drank my coffee, and I thought about Harold Finch, the man in the bow tie. He sold me this house in 1987. He grew tomatoes in the backyard and gave them to everyone on the block. He died alone in a nursing home because his son put him there and never visited. I went to his funeral. I was the only one there besides the priest. I stood in the rain and watched them lower his body into the ground, and I thought, that is not going to be me. I will die in this house. Rosa will find me. Rosa will call someone. Rosa will cry. And then Rosa will get everything, because Rosa earned it. That is the end of the story. Or maybe it is not the end. Maybe it is just the part where I finally stopped being a victim and became something else, something harder, something colder, something that still loves, but loves carefully now, with walls, with boundaries. With a will that cannot be broken, no matter how many quitclaim deeds my children try to shove under my nose. The laundry is done. The coffee is cold. The sun is fully up now. I have things to do, plants to water, bills to pay, a life to live. A small, quiet life in a big, quiet house. It is not the life I wanted. It is not the life I imagined when I held Jennifer for the first time and promised to protect her forever. But it is mine, and no one can take it from me. Not anymore. I am going to call Rosa now and tell her the soup was perfect. And then I am going to sit on the porch and watch the world go by and feel the sun on my face and be grateful for the small things, the warm towels, the good coffee, the nurse who calls me Mama, the house that stayed, the house that stayed.